Europe is being warned about a possible large-scale war that they must prepare for, and Western media are reporting on corruption inside the US administration. My name is Albina Pidhirnyak. I'll bring you the latest news next. A video has appeared showing American forces capturing the tanker skipper near the coast of Venezuela. Earlier, Trump said that the United States had seized a very large tanker near Venezuela. Trump's corruption is much more serious than in Ukraine. The Atlantic writes about this. The article says that during Ukraine's fight for survival, American officials are taking advantage of the situation. Meanwhile, Trump himself keeps insisting that Ukraine should hold elections.
You think it's time for Zelensky to start accepting things. What things are you talking about?
I think he has to be realistic, and I do wonder about, how long is it going to be till they have an election? It's a democracy. It's a long time. They haven't had an election in a long time. It's losing a lot of people, and it's possible that the people, if you look at the polls, I will say 82%, there was a poll came out, 82% of the people are demanding a settlement be made, Ukrainian people.
Corruption in Russia is so common that people don't even talk about it. For the Russian government, stealing is as natural as drinking or breathing. Ordinary Russians live in poverty, many eat from garbage bins, and for some people, even buying basic food is a big luxury. And while this is happening, Putin goes on TV and talks about how rich Russia has become during the full-scale war against Ukraine.
In recent years, we have achieved outstripping growth in the incomes of the poorest citizens, and the poverty rate in Russia is at record lows. Let me remind you, in fact, we know and remember this well. If in the year 2000 42 million people or 29% of citizens had incomes below the subsistence minimum, then at the end of last year, 7 2/10% or a little more than 10 million people. This year, the positive dynamics here continues. We are consistently moving towards the target set for the year 2030, namely, to reduce the poverty rate to less than 7%, and by 2036 to less than 5%. Please note, when assessing the level of poverty, it is important to see an objective, complete picture of the financial situation of a person and his family, to use other comprehensive approaches, in addition to taking into account the amount of income. I would like to ask my colleagues to keep this in mind and analyze the work to combat poverty accordingly and fine-tune the system of support for citizens.
Meanwhile, the Russian dictator continues to push his criminal narratives. At another meeting, he started talking about the priority of the Russian constitution. Let me remind you, Russia changed its constitution to include Ukrainian territories, which is illegally occupied.
The priority of the Constitution of the Russian Federation, the basic law of our country, is unconditional, and we will proceed from this both within the country, conducting domestic policy, and on the external circuit. These are absolutely unconditional things. Thank you once again for your work and best wishes to all members of the Constitutional Court. Thank you very much.
Lavrov, meanwhile, keeps repeating that Russia supposedly wants a stable peace while claiming that everyone else is against them.
Forecasts about when the Ukrainian conflict will end, specific dates are named by representatives of Europe.
Конкретные сроки называют представители Европы.
Some speak until spring, some speak during the 26th year. After all, we do not waste energy on this. We have specific tasks. These specific tasks were clearly and unambiguously set out publicly by our president, and discussed in detail, as I said, in Anchorage, where an understanding was reached on how best to move towards achieving these goals in the context of sustainable peace, not a truce, not a temporary respite, but a sustainable peace.
Lavrov says that Europe is against peace because, according to him, Europeans only want a simple ceasefire, not a stable peace. Of course, this is just cynical Kremlin propaganda. But honestly, Lavrov's words sound more like the actions of the Trump administration than those of Europe.
Contacts, according to media reports, took place by phone between President Trump, Macron, Starmer, and Friedrich Merz.
Между президентом Трампом, Макроном, Стармером, Фридрихом Мерцем.
And now the official representative of the German government, a certain Mr. Cornelius, makes a public statement that reads,
Делает публичное заявление, которое гласит:
4 heads of state and government discussed the progress of negotiations on a ceasefire in Ukraine.
прекращении огня на Украине.
Only about this. Europe is not interested in anything else. And we insist that a package of agreements be reached on a lasting, sustainable, long-term peace with security guarantees for all parties involved.
Security guarantees are extremely important for Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelensky has repeated many times, if there is a peace plan, what will our partners do if Russia attack again? Europe reportedly has some proposals, and the Kremlin has already reacted to them.
They fantasize about sending their military personnel to Ukraine as peacekeepers in quotation marks.
На Украину в качестве миротворцев в кавычках.
For us, these so-called peacekeepers will immediately become legitimate targets. Everyone should understand this.
Все понимать.
Now they have already been forced to admit the facts of direct participation in the war against Russia by British servicemen and special forces.
В войне против России британских военнослужащих, спецназовцев.
After one of them died, the British government could no longer hide these circumstances.
И правительство уже не могло скрывать эти обстоятельства.
It is stated that at least 100 British subjects are in the ranks of those fighting against the Russian Federation.
Находятся в рядах воюющих против Российской Федерации.
Of course, we're the news of just yesterday night, this morning.
Вчерашнего вечера, сегодняшнего утра.
Of course, we will draw all the necessary conclusions from this latest manifestation of the true essence of the British regime.
Meanwhile, Rutte is warning Europeans that they need to prepare for serious, large-scale war.
Conflict is at our door. Russia has brought war back into Europe. And we must be prepared for the scale of war our grandparents and great-grandparents endured. Imagine it. A conflict reaching every home.
Thank you for watching this video. Leave your thoughts in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. Support Ukraine. See you next time.